Hello students, welcome to my next session. Today we are going to talk about managing supply networks and supplier relationship. I Dr. Rohan Prabhakar Dahivale welcome you all. Chapter objectives for today's sessions are: what are supply chain and networks? What is the role of information and inventory? How can service supplier networks be managed? And we are going to learn about how can managers develop a global network strategy. We'll start with introduction. The delivery of all services relies on exchange of information, products and services between an organization and its customers and suppliers. The purchase of a book from Amazon by a customer requires the customer to use Amazon's website to search for information and then to send the request for the book with payment information back to Amazon, which then via postal services sends the book to the customer. Amazon in turn has relationship information, financial, and its suppliers of books and providers of website and web-based payment services. For example, and also internal relationship with its internal service providers, human resource and IT department, web management, invoicing, etc. The management of these complex webs of relationship is usually referred to rather simplicity as the supply chain management, that is SCM. SCM involves managing information, material, products, and service flows through the network of organizations to individual business customers and end customers. Well managed network provides many benefits such as major cost reduction, improved speed and flexibility, faster response to changes in markets, and higher level of service to the customers. In this particular session, we will explore some of the issues in managing supply networks and the relationship between their variable or their various elements or nodes. So we'll start with what are the supply chains and networks. So in this particular session, we will start with defining the supply chain and then we'll describe several types of supply chain or supply networks. So first we'll start with supply chains. So supply chain is a set of links or networks which joins the internal and external suppliers together with internal and external customers. SCM, that is supply chain management, is concerned with managing the network and the flow of information, material, services, and even customer through the network. Supply chain management is usually looked at from the perspective of one of the major organizations within the network. However, we will also be looking at supply networks from the customers outside in perspective. Let's consider example of a book retailer. In essence, they will buy books from the book publisher, that is suppliers, and make them available in their shops or maybe on their websites for their customers. So just look at this particular figure. All the, Although the arrows in the figure shows the movement of the books, it is important to realize that there is an opposite flow of information from right to left to order of the books and again left to right to invoice for the books, and then money flows from right to left to pay for the books. These channels may be paper or electronic, or in the case of movement of the books, may involve other organizations like postal services and express email companies and so on. Most supply networks are much more complex and will involve second tier suppliers. In this case, they will include authors who write books, then the printers, the subcontractors, proofreaders, for example. There are likely to be third tier suppliers such as paper mills that supply the printers and the case study organization that provides material and permission for the authors. There are also second tier customers. The customers may be the user of the books. They may be one of the many university programs administrators who are purchasing the books for the students. That is second tier customers. So those who will buy the book from them and have them provided as a part of the course pack. The first tier customer might also be a library which enables the customers, that is second tier, to borrow the books. So the below figure, you can pause the video and you can carefully learn the figure. You can see that supply networks may have more tires and come in many shapes and sizes. This is the point from the operations management point of view, that even relative simple supply chains can have complex and difficult to manage, as we have discussed before. Now we'll talk about supply networks from the customer's perspective. Traditionally, supply chain management looks at the supply networks from the point of view of the organization in the middle of the supply networks. However, here we would like to take the customer's perspective and look at supply chain network from the customer's perspective that we have seen in the first chapter, that is outside in. A customer, whether a business, a consumer, or a user of public services, will not simply be involved in a single supply network but several. They will be the customer or user of multiple supply chains or networks, and they may have to work hard to coordinate the activities of all of them to achieve the total service they require. And to make the situation more complex, those individual networks may have many interconnections. Those interconnections are can be shown in this particular figure. So see this figure and we'll elaborate now. So take the example of a person wanting to buy a house. They will have to contact with several service supply networks, including maybe an estate agent whose network includes many people trying to sell their house, or the seller with their owner, that is solicitor or owner lawyer, and the network of organization to arrange their next house purchase, or maybe a house loan provider, that is mortgage, with their access to fund and properties surveyors, or maybe the buyer's lawyer who is responsible for checking the title deeds with the land registry, for ensuring funds are in the place, and for drawing up the contract, checking them and getting the agreement. Also the house removal company which moves the customer's furniture on the right day, or maybe the post office which arrange the redirection of mail at the point of in the time to the right new address. So this is the simplified house moving network from the supplier's point of view. That also may include the telecommunication company which transfer the old landline phone from old house to new house at the right time and provides the final bill. Also the water company which needs to produce a final bill at the point of moving and set up the new account in the new address. So the customer will also be reliant upon many of those organizations, not only managing their own chains but coordinating with the other networks. So we have taken this example in detail. Now we'll learn what is the role of information and inventory. So the essential exchange mechanism in the service supply networks is the information, that is request for service, payments and instruction, etc. This results in the flow and delivery of the products and services. So many of the in something resembling a relay race, a single tiffin is passing with the chain. So if we just take the example of lunch delivery in Mumbai, then the around 150 to 350 rupees a month, depending on the location. Workers in the Mumbai can have their hot home cooked and lunch delivered to their place of work every day. This service is used by factory workers, then office workers, managers, students, and even school children. Around 8 in the morning, they join the crowded trains, buses, and roads to go to the work or school in the city. Later that morning, their wives or mother or maid prepares a hot meal of, for example, maybe dal, dahi, naan, bread, vegetable curry, etc. So this is then carefully packed in a tiffin or tiffin box, and they are handled with care, which is a tin shaped dabba or tiffin box. Through many families now use the modern color insulated lunchbox. The tiffin is collected by the dabbawalas, that is the tiffin worker, around 10:30 to 11 and delivered to the hungry recipient by 12:30 or 1. So this door-to-door service is provided by the Mumbai Tiffin Box Suppliers Association, that is MTBSA. So despite of the large number of tiffins moved each day, the distance traveled, the multiple transfer points, too many handovers, zero documentation, and a very short period of time in which this is accomplished, and there are rarely any mistakes. It has been estimated that around only one mistake per 8 million deliveries has been happening there. So this is the case of lunch delivery in Mumbai by Mumbai Dabbawalas. So effective supply chains, like we have described in the Mumbai Dabbawala case, are those that work in close collaboration, having the right information that is timely and accurate, for example, and in appropriate format to be used and understood by all the nodes in the supply chain, allows each organization to better manage their operations and minimize the cost. In theory, the benefits of good information exchange will be shared equitably with the partners in the supply chain. In practice, this does not always happen when the organization with the muscle or buying power may dominate. So, the networks that are supplying the products, such as supermarket or a bookstore, maybe inventory, that is storage of the materials or products, may be required to allow the network to operate effectively for the various reasons. Like, first reason is the process requires work in progress to run. Supermarket company will need to have the supplies of foods in lorries on the roads delivering the products to various individual stores. Second is the inventory is also put in place because the chains does not operate perfectly. For example, supermarkets require stock on their shelves because they cannot forecast demand with 100% accuracy. The supermarket will invest in more safety stock if it wish to reduce the possibility of customer dissatisfaction because of empty shelves. Supply chain management concern with reducing the inventory through the provision of better information and the management of the flows of materials, that is logistics, through the supply networks. The difficulty in the inventory is often used to enable the high service levels. For example, retailers need to combine high levels of product availability with being competitive and responsive to the changes in the market demand of fashion. An airline wants to ensure that the customer receive the choice of meal they require without holding too many extra meals in the limited space available on board. So organizations need to manage their inventory very carefully because there are significant cost saving to be made. For example, again, the airlines which will watch the price of fuel carefully because marginal savings uh, here will have a significant impact on their profits. On a smaller scale, a local seafood restaurant will want to develop reliable and frequent sources of fresh supply of fresh fish to serve its customer. But keeping stock too long will affect either wastage cost or on the customer's health. So, how can the supply networks be managed? So, as we can see, the nature of supply chains can be very messy and complex. The key issues for the operations manager are described on the PPT. So, first is ensuring coordination and collaboration between and within the supply networks. Then ensuring the timely flow of information, products, and services. Also minimizing inventory while maximizing the service level or minimizing the costs. So, if you remember in the chapter 4, we dealt with the relationship between the businesses and customers. In the remainder of this chapter, we'll explore some of the approaches to supply chain management that help in better management of supply networks. That includes disintermediation, then managing through intermediaries, then outsourcing and offshoring, then developing the supply partnership, then the purchasing or procurement function, supply selection, measuring the performances, that is service level agreement, and understanding the barriers to the supply chain management. So we'll start with managing through intermediaries. So some supply chains or networks involves middlemen, distributors, agents, or dealers who take the responsibility for managing a section of the supply chain, thus making managing the chain easier for the service provider or the customer. Many financial service companies, for example, have chosen to sell through brokers, not seeing the customer contact as part of their core businesses. Car producers likewise do not see the role as a selling car to the public and often set up owned or franchise dealerships to deal with the customer. Travel agents act as an intermediary between the customer and the tour operators and see their role as helping the customers choose an appropriate holiday and providing information about a wide range of holidays and information and access to a range of related services such as transport to the airport and currency services. Now we'll see what are the advantages of using the intermediaries. So there are many good reasons for using the intermediaries. We can take various examples like first is closeness to customer. So many customer prefer to deal with an organization that is physically close to them. This might be because they prefer to deal face to face or because they have not got access to electronic processes or because the nature of the service require the presence of service providers. For example, one of the major deliveries of the customer satisfaction in the ownership of car is uh, in the ease of access to a recognized dealer for service and repair. Next is local knowledge. The major supplier may have influence knowledge of local conditions and culture in the development of global strategies. Much emphasis is placed on thinking globally and acting locally. Third is focused exercise. So we can take one example of Microsoft. We'll just discuss. So Microsoft has chosen to restrict its activity to software development rather than get involved in the creation and administration of network of distributors and developers. This allows for a high degree of flexibility as a service partner close to the market developed some solutions using Microsoft platforms. Fourth is poor service margins. So the volume of a service revenue may be too small in some geographical regions for the provision of a dedicated service unit. Capital equipment suppliers may sell only one or two units initially into a region but must provide after sale support. Rather than recruit and train service engineers for a few service calls per year, the company may use local service agents who may also service competitors' equipments. Next is insufficient capacity. A strategy adopted by many call centers is to have a subcontract capacity available through the provider set up explicitly for this type of activity. The information system available to call centers or the call agents or call center agents enable them to act in such a manner that the customers is unlikely to detect any difference in the service delivery. What are various issues in managing the intermediaries? So just look at this figure. The central issue is dealing with the intermediaries that their objective may not always coincide with those of the main organization or indeed with the customers. So we'll take one example of Microsoft. Microsoft chosen to sell and provide the support of its software through a comprehensive worldwide network of partners and associated companies. Rather than deal directly with the customers, there are a number of channels for Microsoft to manage in order to ensure that it users receive the appropriate level of service. One of these channels is managed by Microsoft under the certified solution provider company. The Microsoft providers are able to receive training, sales support, and software, as well as the priority information about the latest upgradation and the software patches to ensure that they are up to date and able to give their customer good services. So, in some respect, the Microsoft might be viewed as being a relationship broker. Partnerships are given access to the database of tens of the thousands of prospective customers who search the Microsoft.com every month. Not only this, but the partners are encouraged to network with the other Microsoft partners through the worldwide partner conferences and through the partner channel builder. In order to move through the levels of partner from the registered member to certified partners and then to gold certified partners, organization must demonstrate increasingly level of competency to deliver the Microsoft solutions and each and earn the partnership points through a combination of passing Microsoft training qualifications, then sales performances, and taking part in promotional activities. So the key dimensions in the figure on the PPT is that of in house control. So the trade-off that service organization adopting the intermediary approach are making in between the potential cost of poor service or poor quality of service and the lost customer against the cost of forming and maintaining a distributed network to a service unit. So the reason for maintaining a high in-house control of the service includes to increase the depth and breadth of the customer relationship, then to ensure the customer complaints are effectively dealt with and that rapid feedback for the process information is facilitated. To retain the control over innovative products and services for which there is a limited resources. Now, the various service forms are as follows. First is commandos. So these are highly trained service personals, often used to hit squad, able to tackle most of the problems on their own with little or no management direction. They are typically used to support the complex products such as process automation and innovative information systems. These service providers are often found in professional services, particularly those that provide support services for software or communication system. Then regulars are less comprehensively skilled than the commandos and are less able to work without direction. The tasks they carry out tend to be more specified, and of course, there are more of them. It is important to note that because they are employed by the uh, permanent organization or the parent organization, there is still relatively high level of in-house control. This is diminished slightly by the fact that the regulars are usually geographically dispersed by region or site. Thirds are the part-timers. These service providers are the customers themselves, trained by the parent organizations to carry out the service task for themselves. An example is provided by the photocopier companies that train key operators to change the toner cartridge and free paper jams without using the expensive service engineers, that is regulars. Next are mercenaries. So, mercenaries are not part of the parent organization. The prime result for fighting on the side of the main organization is that they are being paid to do so. So, they uh, uh, they may switch sides if there is a sufficient incentive, and they do not share the culture of the parent organization. Last are enemies. These are not on the same side. It may uh, it may it may be that the parent organization has decided not to provide service in all circumstances, particularly if the profit margins are very small. So the challenge is to provide the intermediaries with sufficient financial incentives while developing the customer service values required to generate the customer loyalty. So the strategies include financial incentives, then punishments, providing expertise, training, information systems, and technology. We'll see one by one. First, we'll talk about financial incentives. This is particularly relevant when the intermediary is not dedicated to providing service for only one organization. The parent organization may provide the financial investment, discounts, or credit facilities to encourage the intermediaries to favor its service ahead of its rivals. Then next is punishment. The ultimate sanction for poor performance is for the parent organization to withdraw its support. This has become more common in recent years in the automobile industry. The manufacturers removing franchises from their dealerships. Usually, though this approach is only used as a last resort because other dealers, no matter how good they are, wonder if they will be treated in a similar manner. Then, providing expertise, one of the most effective ways of motivating intermediaries is to provide support for their business. The parent organization frequently has considered resources in areas they are lacking in the intermediary. So, in the case of Microsoft providing sales and support solutions, that is, solution providers who are stronger in their technical skills, the Caterpillar likewise has created high levels of dealer satisfaction through the support given. Next is training. McDonald's Hamburger University is occasionally a source of jokes because there can be little doubt as its value in creating a consistency of approach throughout the network of outlets, both company owned and franchised. Then the information system and technology. Provision of process technology will assist in ensuring consistency of delivery. A franchisee generally receives a package of standard equipment and operating procedures to deliver the core service in the manner laid down by the parent organization. Both Caterpillar and Microsoft provides online technical support to their parents and dealers. This serves the dual purpose of ensuring that high quality technical support is given to their customers and also training their partners and dealers in the desired approach. Then, how you are going to do the selection of the intermediaries? The recruitment and training of intermediaries are crucial and critical, particularly for those organizations choosing to operate through the franchises. So, franchising operates under the company brand, and any poor performance could seriously damage it. Criteria for selection should be at least as stringent as for the selection of the suppliers, but should also include a review of potential franchisees' commitments to the brand value of the parent organization. So, disintermediation, a trend in a trend in many supply networks has been to circumvent or remove some of these intermediaries as the action referred to as the disintermediation. This approach may bring benefits such as reduced cost and greater responsiveness, but also increase the management task of for the person or organization requiring the service. So the holiday industry will just take one example. Just take example here. So the holiday industry is a good example. So travel agents traditionally sell holidays to the customers through the shops in the town centers or shopping mall. The customers may be individuals or group travelers. The travel agents sell a range of products and packages created by a number of tour operators. These tour operators will each negotiate independently with a range of hotels, airlines, restaurants, entertainment activities and venues, and transportation companies as well. For example, to create a package holiday aimed at a particular market, given the size of the operations, they are often able to achieve the substantial discount and can hold often on a call of as required the basic basis call off basis services for many months while the travel agents sell their packages. So over the last few years, tour operators have been cutting out the travel agents and selling directly to the public. Although they have had to incur the additional cost of call centers or websites to sell and service their products. You can just see in this particular figure, even the greater disintermediation is visible as hotels, airlines, car rental companies, etc., have made their service available and bookable directly through their websites. So, cutting the both the tour operators and travel agents. So, the advantage might be greater control and sometimes lower cost for consumers, but certainly at the expense of considering considerably greater efforts for them as they have to coordinate multiple supply networks. So, many service organizations continue to use intermediaries for selling processes as well as for service delivery to the end customer or user. These organizations have continued to develop the support networks of agents, dealers, and franchisees for a variety of reasons. Financial service companies have traditionally dealt through pensions or insurance brokers. This was in the part to give the customer confidence that they were being given independent advice for the same reason that Microsoft use the certified solutions providers that we have seen in the case of Microsoft. So the problem with this approach is that it often deals to confusion as who is the real customer, the intermediary or the final customer. Of course, the simple answer is that both groups our customers, but it would be wrong to suggest that satisfying both groups is an easy task. Now we'll see the concept of outsourcing and offshoring, where disintermediation reduces the size of the supply networks, outsourcing expands it. Outsourcing and related offshoring is the splitting out a part of an operation to a specified company. Usually, it affects peripheral activities such as purchasing or accounting functions or call centers. But occasionally, a core activity is split off, for example, being equipment repairs. Organizations that do this believe that there are financial and strategic benefits to be had from the letting a specialist suppliers managers that used to be in-house task. In recent years, there has been a major increase in organizations outsourcing aspects of their operations that can be managed more effectively and more efficiently by specialist companies. Many of these service providers have built upon a particular expertise and have uh, repositioned themselves to provide a package or solution for their customers. Examples include companies which used to maintain building equipment such as air conditions or lift now providing a total facility management services, replacing the customer's site maintenance functions and information support system, including the help desk functions. A key reason for the effectiveness of the outsourcers is that they can offer the benefits of economy of scales and investment in the information system that provide opportunities for operational effectiveness. Outsourcing frequently involves the transfer of employees from the original organization to the new supplier. This is particularly true in the public sector, and this shift in culture from the public service to commercial operation has proved to be a major factor in the success or otherwise of the activity. A report on outsourcing the experiences in the public sector in the New Zealand suggests four factors that distinguish between the success and failure. First is the service centers that build an immediate relationship with the client based on the service were more successful in establishing viable client base than those which are more interested in maintaining tight controls of transactions. Then, good operational performance builds the client loyalty. Poor performance is a major reason for clients to choose the new providers. Then, market size is critical to provide the economies of scale required to realize the effectiveness or efficiencies to provide the margins. Then, a major factor is that ability of senior management to move from a bureaucratic style, somewhat remote from the stakeholders, to a more open style and closer relationship with the customers and stakeholders. So now we'll talk about developing the supply partnership. So as the pace of competition quickens, it has become increasingly common for organizations to enter into the partnership and alliances for a number of strategic reasons. So few of the strategic reasons are displayed on the PPT. First is to enter a new geographical region where a partner may have a stronger market presence, or to provide a package of products and services that required the joint expertise of the partners to deliver them, or to develop new expertise in association with others, sharing resources in order to gain the joint benefits. So, if you remember again in chapter number 4, we have described many types of business relationships, including the partnerships, then alliances, and networks. So, in this section, we want to focus on the alliances that have been formed in order to collaborate in the development and or delivery of a specific set of services. Now, what are alliances? So, there are three key dimensions of alliances. First is focused or complex. A focused alliance has clearly defined aims and it's set up under the particular specific circumstances. Generally, the focused alliance deal with a subset of each of the partner's total activities. An example would be the telecommunication system providers such as Ericsson or Motorola forming an alliance with a software company in China or market a specific communication solution. It is clear that this agreement uh, beyond does not go beyond these boundaries. The complex alliances would involve a much more substantial part of both partners being involved, perhaps retaining separate brands and marketing identities, but operationally much more interlinked. Next is joint venture or working agreement. So, major tasks for a partnership cannot be handled by the semi formal agreements. It is more likely to be dealt with the formation of a joint venture company. A significant issue here will be the allocation of power between the two partners. And next is partnership and partnership or consortium. While many strategic alliances take the form of partnership between two organizations, a common task requiring a wide range of skills and knowledge may be handled using a consortium. The issues involved in the management of these projects are corresponding more complex. So, this figure shows some of the major factors to be considered in assessing the likely success of an alliance. The criteria for assessing the likely success of an alliance include the extent to which the strategic aims of the partners coincides, but do not overlap. If both the partners wants to have same benefits, there is little point in pursuing the partnership. Then the extent to which two cultures allow for effective working are the values and beliefs of and the general ways of working compatibility. As shown in the figure, are the two partners, partner A and B, able to let the venture work in its own way. So the culture of the venture is likely to be different from those of both its parents and may be viewed with suspicion. Has there been sufficient discussion and negotiation as to what are the likely benefits of the each partner, and it is clear as to which partner is responsible for which activities? Then is there a dominant partner in the enterprise? Has this been agreed? And is the less powerful partner happy with the agreement? Then is it clear how long the relationship or partnership will last? And what are the terms of the dissolution of the partnership? So, the experiences of alliances are many and varied. The key issue is the extent to which the senior management is truly committed to the process rather than paying lip service to the idea. So, the creation of co branded service between a telecommunication company and a financial service organization has been described. Now, the purchasing or procurement function. The function traditionally is responsible for managing the supply chain, purchasing and supply or procurement department. This is important activity found in all organization, that it may be public, private, government or charitable, and can be responsible for large amount of spending. So spending by service organization on, for example, material component, facilities, then subcontract capacity, IT equipment, suppliers, maybe consumables, stationery, travel and insurance, and can constitute a significant amount of money. Often 30 to 60% of an organization's turnover is associated with the procurement function. So procurement is traditionally an internal service provider by a dedicated team of the professionals. It is typically operates in the interface between the organization's external supplier marketplace and the organization's operational processes. Procurement has many of the characteristics of the marketing function, although it faces the other direction in the supply networks. Procurement is usually responsible for the identification of internal customers' needs and translation of those needs into specification, then management the delivery of the products and services, and an assessment of the internal customer satisfaction with those products and services. The other elements of the process involve communication with the supplier, sourcing, then request of tenders, then price negotiations, ordering, receipt, and invoicing. Then there are three key benefits. So before that, we'll just talk about e-procurement. So e-procurement, that is electronic procurement system, are form of disintermediation. In essence, the procurement system mirror the procurement process through the provision of two distinct but connected infrastructure, that is internal processing and external communication with the supply base. So internal processing is through, for example, corporate internet, and the external communication with the supplier base is through, for example, internet-based platforms. The critical difference in these systems allows individual employees to order the products and services directly from their own PCs through the web. Requests and orders are challenged through various forms of hub or database, which act as online catalogs of specification, price and often, and authorization rules. Such system allows individual employee to search for items, then check availability, place and track orders, and initiate the payment on delivery. So research found that e-procurement provides these three key benefits that are displayed on the PPT over the traditional procurement process. First is customer satisfaction, then process compliance, and then cost reduction. So we'll talk one by one. So first is customer satisfaction. So internal customer reported greater satisfaction with the electronic based procurement system, even though they had to undertake more work, that is searching, ordering and payment themselves. They appreciate greater accessibility and availability of the purchase products and services, then faster fulfillment of request and much greater control over the process and their own budgets. Then next is process compliances. E-procurement system provided the greater reliability than the traditional system, and because they were easy for individuals to use, these are less Mavic purchase made. Then the process tended also to be more transparent and affordable, better control of purchasing the process. Next is cost reduction. Not only were there the significant savings in the cost of purchasing, but because the employees had greater control over the process, less emergency or just in case supplies needed to be kept. So, in addition, additional important impact of e-procurement is that the traditional roles of the purchasing department, such as placing and managing the orders, can now be done electronically. This leaves the purchasing function in a position where it can be either more easily outsourced or take more strategic role, such as evaluating the impact of e-procurement, then advising on the systems and policies, and driving savings across the whole organization. Then how we are going to do the supplier selection? One of the key decisions for a procurement function is the selection of the suppliers, particularly for those who are to undertake the critical elements of the supply networks and supply chains. Some criteria of supplier selection, apart from the cost and quality, includes, as shown in on the PPT, that financial standing, then people management skills, including the training and industrial relationship records, then commercial awareness, productivity, quality management approach, then focus on continuous improvement activities and shared values. For many organizations, the cost of the products and service provided may totally determine the choice of the supplier. But in some of the enlightened companies, uh, there is not always the case. So, uh, however, part of the approach of the supply chain management includes the reduction of number of suppliers. Concern has been expressed that if the organization is dependent on the single supplier, that may leave the buyer exposed. Nokia has developed an approach to this issue that is the typical of many organizations. Nokia has three types of suppliers: sole suppliers, single suppliers, and multiple suppliers. So, sole suppliers, these are used for new technologies where there may be only one supplier capable of delivering the required specification. Then single supplier, this is a preferred approach for many components. The supplier will be appointed to provide the organization's total requirement of an component or family of component or a region or possibly globally. Then Nokia will have other suppliers who are capable of supplying these elements in the event of a problem, but who are currently providing the similar products. And next is multiple suppliers. Uh, these are used when necessary, perhaps to develop the supplier's capability or to provide locally specific components. So Nokia's approach to supply chain management enables it to develop the flexibility it requires to meet the demand of the market that has challenges of rapid growth and shortening product life cycles. Now, one stop shop. Consequences of the organizations wishing to reduce their administration overhead is to raise the opportunity for service providers to set a comprehensive package to the customer. For example, facility management organization, that is FMO, offer full maintenance for organization that do not wish to employ their own staff to look after their building. That is, they outsource building maintenance. So FMO, that is Facilities Management Organization, acts as a one-stop shop for all their needs from cleaning to maintenance. Then measuring performances, that is service level agreement. So service level agreements, that is called as SLAs. Service level agreements are forms of contracts agreed between a service supplier and the service purchase or user. These are usually found in a business to business context and often between the internal suppliers and customers where a traditional contract is not felt to be appropriate. They are an important means of managing the relationship between the partners in a supply chain. Whether for internal use or external use, an SLA goes beyond the traditional remit of a contract. A statement of service specification and the price that will be paid for it. While an SLA, like a contract, defines the nature of the products and services and level of the quality to be provided. The idea of agreement is that it is mutually agreed view of what can be and will be provided, but also and importantly, it exists for the mutual development of both the parties. Now, service selection. The core of the SLA is the development and agreement of the service specification that may include agreeing the key dimensions of the performances, then agreeing how each dimensions will be measured, setting a mutually agreed target for each dimension, then routinize relationship, the routine part of the relationship formalized by SLAs concern the day-to-day operations of the agreement. Then development relationship, a key through often ignored element of SLAs is its role of developing a long-term relationship between the supplier and the customer. This involves providing a mechanism for routine discussion of the measures and targets to share the ideas for all-round improvements. So advantages and disadvantages uh, includes clearly SLA requires considerably more input of time and effort by both parties than a traditional contract. They have to be made for each service and with each supplier in the supply chain. They can be very much complex and they need to need an investment of time and effort in the long term to secure the potential benefits. Then common mistakes in SLAs. Sadly, for many organizations, SLA uh, degenerate into the traditional contract, missing out the real benefits that can be obtained. The usual mistakes may include too few or inappropriate dimensions of the performance, then not mutually agreed target for each dimensions, then responsibility for measures not identified, then no mechanism for reporting and discussion of the performances, then no procedure to deal with the problems and mutual benefits not discussed or delivered. Then understanding the barriers of the supply chain management. Although supply chain management senses in many ways of the organization, there are a few barriers to successful implementation that includes lack of system capability, then complacency, then information used for a variety of conflicting purposes, then mistrust or maybe power games. Mistrust is previous over inflated estimates on demands may lead to suppliers reducing the capacity allocation to provide the level less than the requirement. Uh, how can managers develop a global marketing strategy? They can thought of marketing motives or resourcing motives or strategic seeking motives or efficiency seeking motives as well. So you can pause the video and you can see this figure where we have described the global network strategy. So there can be cultural differences. So the operations of the global supply network must taken into consideration the factors included in the lower part of the figure that includes the cultural differences, then technology transfers you can see in the figure, then operations organizations structure, then the role of each unit in the network, then location decisions and choice of partners and suppliers. So we'll just moving towards the last part, that is summary. So we have learned first part, that is what are the supply chains and networks. So a supply chain is the set of links or networks which join together the tiers of internal and external suppliers with tiers of external and internal customers. SCM is concerned with managing the network and the flow of information, materials, services, and customers through the network. Role of the customer may involve coordinating the set of activities and interrelationships despite often having very little power or leverage to do so. Then, what is the role of information and inventory? So, effective supply chains are those that work in close collaboration, carefully managing information and inventories. How can service supply chains be managed? So, some of the chains are contracting through the disintermediation, others are expanding through outsourcing and offshoring. The main reason for using the intermediaries include closeness to customer, then local knowledge, focused expertise, poor service margin, and insufficient capacity. The main trade-off to be managed is between the in-house control and the profit margins. Then a few discussion questions. Select a service organization and construct what you assume to be its supply chain. Then you can think of the last time you have arranged an event or service such as a holiday or maybe dinner party, music event, etc. What were the issues you faced in coordinating the various inputs, including the participants and activities suppliers? Then compare the approaches of two organizations in the same service sector, one choosing to operate through the intermediaries, the other preferring to deal with end customers directly. Then what are the benefits and challenges of each approach? So these are discussion questions. Then questions for managers. How well do you manage your supply network? Who are the parties? How effective are they? And what are the mechanism for review and improvement? Then could you be more effective in reaching new markets and providing the new services by forming a strategic alliance? Then what would you require in a partner such as alliance? Then if you have service system agreements, how do we benefits both parties? So for further reading you can go for the service operations management, improving service delivery. This book is Pearson publication book by Robert Johnston, then Graham Clark and Michael Scholver. So with this I wish you all the best for your studies. Thank you.